What's up, everybody? My name is Clue, and this is the Kent Farm Podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the variety. What's up, everybody? My name is Clue, and this is the Kent Farm Podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing the Vanity Fair article that dropped today on Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to do a quick rundown, and then we're going to get into a live video tomorrow to discuss in further depth. There were a couple of things that I really wanted to point out that I did notice about this article. And yeah, so I wanted to bring my boy Marcus on. Marcus and I are going to have a quick chat about it before tomorrow's live stream. So yeah, now don't forget, like, subscribe, all of the stuff that the YouTubers say. We have hit 62 so far. Already, it's been just over a week. Let's get to 100. So if you're liking what we're doing so far, show your friends, share it, do all of that. I'm going to invite Marcus in, and we're going to have a further chat. What's up, Marcus? How you doing today, man?
Good. How about you?
Yeah, fantastic, man. Fantastic. So what were your thoughts? You had a chance to read the article, check it all out.
Yeah.
Anything specific jump out at you?
Well, I think the big standout for everyone was the mentioning of the relationship that Zack intended for Bruce and Lois. I think that was a kind of a wow moment for everyone to read.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just jump straight into that, because that was a big factor. Top of your head, couple of thoughts. What are you thinking? Are you happy that it's not happening? Would you have liked to see it?
Well, I think it plays into that whole diagram that Zack kind of shared with everyone, and then everyone was trying to like figure out what it was and everything. So I think it plays into that. So I'm not sure whether I'm happy or not happy that it's happening. Like, it would have been interesting to see how he put his spin on it and what he did with it. I think it would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
But I mean, he might have been able to do the same thing with, say, Selena or something. I don't know, or maybe someone like that. But I don't know.
Well,
I think it's
just before we go too deep into it, I will read some excerpts and put it up on the screen. So for those who have missed it, a Vanity Fair article dropped today, and it was interviewed with Snyder. So this is one of the things that he mentioned. Warner Brothers did nix some of the sweeping notions for Justice League, like adding a romance between Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and Amy Adams' Lois Lane, who was mourning Superman's death from the previous film. The intention was that Bruce fell in love with Lois and then realized that the only way to save the world was to bring Superman back to life, says Snyder. So he had this insane conflict because Lois, of course, was still in love with Superman. We had this beautiful speech where Bruce said to Alfred, "I've never had a life outside the cave. I've never imagined a world for me beyond this. But this woman makes me think that if I can get this group of gods together, then my job is done. I can quit. I can stop." And of course, that doesn't work out for him. Obviously, it's a pretty big takeaway from, well, who Bruce and Lois are. From my understanding, they've never had a relationship in the comics either.
I don't believe so.
But maybe somewhere. But I've not heard of it. But yeah, I think, like, for me, it's definitely an interesting character piece, because it says to me that, like, obviously for Bruce, he has this agonizing moment where it's almost like an equivalent sacrifice where Superman's just given up his life for the world, and then Bruce almost would have had to do the same thing. He's seeing this future life that he's never sort of felt like he's had this life that he's suddenly seeing with Lois, and he would have had to give that up, obviously.
Like his opportunity to walk away from being Batman and that whole life.
Exactly, in order to sacrifice that for him, or for the world, rather. So I definitely think it's an interesting point. I don't hate the idea, but it is a big takeaway, and I think that, the last thing that any Zack Snyder DC film needs is more ammo for the haters to jump on top of it.
That was my first thought when I read it too. That's just more ammo for them to.
And as you can see, we've seen a lot from these articles. or from the article already today. I've seen all over Twitter people, like I got a message from someone that I know who's been excited, who sent me the article and said, suddenly I'm not excited for this film anymore. And then I've sort of explained, hey, look, they're not doing it, but this is why he would have done it, and why it would have been interesting. But I agree. I'm glad that it's not happening. Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere, I think it was in the group chat or something, that maybe if that was something he wanted to explore and say like a prequel comic or like an adaptation of that, that would have been good to see, just to see what he would have done without it being in the movie or in the
like a between BVS and Justice League sort of thing. But again, is it something that jumps out at me to the point where I'm like, yes, I have to have this adaptation? Definitely not. No. I think that, and I will say, I don't say this often, but I feel like the studio probably made the right call with that. It's rare, but sometimes these things get culled for a reason. And I'm sure it's definitely not just this film either. I think there's a lot of scrutiny on this film, but that every single superhero movie would have some sort of original idea like that, where the director's like, be cool if we did this, and then they're like, no chance.
No.
We just don't hear about him as much, and obviously with Zack, he's very open to talking about what his thoughts and feelings are. So the next thing that I thought was interesting, and it really speaks to their relationship externally, is I didn't know Nolan was also in the screening and teamed up with Debbie to be like, you can't do this.
Okay, so I'm not the only one that didn't know that.
Yeah, so my version of events that I was aware of was that Debbie saw the screening and Debbie said to him, you can't see this film. Now, it did interest me a lot that, and it makes 100% sense, that Nolan went into and Nolan was walking away. That obviously makes sense to me, but it did jump out at me too as something that I was unfamiliar with. It makes me happy though, because as a Nolan fan, and someone who's obviously got a lot of pull at the studio, seeing that was definitely a good thing. And I think his seeing, is it Syncopy? Syncopy, his studio has been, obviously Nolan executive produced Zack Snyder's Justice League, and they've been doing more promotion than Warner Brothers have.
Exactly.
So they've been tweeting about it every single time. They even mentioned the article this morning. So just for that, after the private screening of the Whedon cut, Nolan and Deborah Snyder emerged into the light with a shared mission. They came and they just said, you can never see that movie. Zack Snyder says during his lunch at his Pasadena office, a modernist series of cubes jutting from a hillside that overlooks the Rose Bowl. Debbie said, because I knew that it would break his heart to see.
That's the quote that when I read that, it was like...
Yeah. And given the fact that the studio had, and I don't have the quote right now to pull up, but very, very early on, there was the discussions, Zack has very much led the course, and this is just a passing of the baton to Joss to just tidy things up. From Emmerich there, they've definitely changed so much, and it even goes back to what we saw earlier, from early days where we were talking about going, is this really what Zack had planned? And you can see now, from then, they were like, nah. And they've clearly been more involved than even we knew.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there was even a quote they pulled from Ray Fisher that was like, when he found out that Zack was walking away from the movie, like he understood why, obviously, but he was gutted to hear it, and it just really kind of brought him down. So
absolutely. The last, not the last, I've got one more that I think I've got to find and pull up, but this one that really jumped out at me too was the cast were very loyal to Zack. They were hurting for him, says Nelson, the former DC president, and that's obviously Diane Nelson, who was president at the time. It would have been difficult for any new director to walk into, a difficult environment for any new director to walk into. I have no doubt about that. But then how Joss chose to handle that is Joss's to live with. That was very telling to me. And I know we've heard aspects and different parts of the story, but that was a big one for me.
Yeah. Kind of a dig without having a dig, or without explicitly saying it.
Without explicitly saying it, but saying he did not do things. He didn't handle anything well.
No.
And, you know, for everyone who doesn't believe Ray Fisher at this point, you know, I feel like it's a very head in the sand thing. Like, yes,
yeah, for sure.
We don't know the story directly, but I feel like enough evidence has come out supporting what, or supporting that something happened that was really bad.
Yeah.
To basically suggest, hey, this is something that we've got to just accept. Ray is telling the truth. Something went on that was bad, and I don't personally believe that we need to hear the full story. As much as I'm curious and we would like to hear the full story, I don't think it's something that we necessarily need to hear, because we've got enough evidence to suggest that the people who do need to know are aware at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, even I'm surprised something wasn't done like far earlier, when, because I think I read that Gal even went to executives, like the higher ups, and said something. And
so my understanding with that, with Gal, and she had said that she got things handled her own way, was that after that, she wasn't on set with Joss at all after that.
Oh, okay.
So from what I hear, Gal had issues. Now, I don't know whether I should go into that on here. I have heard parts. I don't know whether me saying it's adding to a story that didn't actually happen or not, but there was some pretty bad things that went on involving that scene with Barry falling onto Gal.
Yeah.
That Gal didn't want to participate in. As you can see, her head's turned. It's just her hair. It was actually a stunt double.
Yeah.
So yeah, the discussion there was had. Basically, how Joss handled her not wanting to do that was really bad. There were some threats made to her career.
And he did the same thing with Ray as well, with threats to the career. I mean, it's a common denominator with him.
Exactly, and very, very much a power thing. So there was some threats made there. She went and took it to the higher ups, and the decision made was that she would have all of her stuff filmed externally. So all of her reshoots were then done with the assistant director, from what I hear. I don't know. There's a lot of noise going on in the background. My dog's making a lot of noise here, but that's all right. He's just chewing up a hat that he found on the ground.
Oh, lovely.
So that's fun. But anyway, so that's happened, and then all of Gal's stuff was done with the assistant director. So the assistant director then has shot everything, and then they've superimposed, and there's a lot of moments that you can see. None of them are together. That scene that was them sitting around in the bunker, or the flying fox, or whatever it is, where there's supposed to be the five of them, none of them were even in the same room. Which, yeah, and you can clearly tell when there's conversations being had. It's just
it just switches from one to the back and forth like that.
Yeah, and then the shots that they are standing there, they're clearly not talking directly to each other, just to someone in that general vicinity. So yeah, I thought that was pretty telling to hear that. And again, we've got enough evidence now. If you're someone who's still like, Ray needs to tell me what has said, he's just made vague references. No, he's provided enough evidence. And
we've had other people from other shows come out and pretty much say similar things. So what more evidence do people need?
Exactly. And there is the discussion had of Joss, people saying they want people from Marvel to come out. As much as I agree with that, I reckon there is still some sort of NDA involved. Like, it's under 10 years at this point. Maybe he was a peach on set. Who knows? But I would say there's probably some stories with Marvel.
It's definitely a question to ask, though, for sure.
Exactly. But I'd say that, with everything going on with Marvel, the last thing that they want is probably any sort of slander against the Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
And with that title, obviously, the Avengers still being such a big prominent thing for them, if they were to sort of Joss Whedon, the Avengers, negative, anything like that from the Marvel cast would probably not be great for them. So I would say, despite all of this, Disney's probably trying to keep them on the hush-hush while they're not, they don't necessarily have to do anything.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Now, just trying to find this last quote that I did want to bring up, and again, we'll discuss this further on tomorrow's live podcast, but Toby Emmerich, a lot of people at the company, myself included, felt badly that Zack didn't get to finish his version of the film because of the circumstances. And so if there was a way to make it logistically and financially possible, which HBO Max did, and Zack had a willingness to do, it seemed like a win for everybody. How do you feel on that?
I don't know. Is it a win for everybody? I mean, we pushed hard enough for it, and we eventually got it.
Yeah.
But then I think there was another quote where he they wanted him to put up the cut that was just on his laptop, like the raw thing.
I will find that. Initially, says Snyder, Warner Brothers wanted to release the raw footage on his laptop. I was like, that's a no. That's a hard no, he says. And they're like, but why? You can just put up the rough cut. Snyder didn't trust their motivations, which is something that I would like to point out, having a look at that Toby Emmerich quote and what Toby had said back in 2017. And what we're seeing now, a lot of sort of manipulation, a lot of trying to undercut the Snyder cut, that sort of thing. I think Zack would see it there.
Yeah, exactly.
I go, here's why. 3 reasons. 1, you get the internet off your back, which is probably your main reason for wanting to do this. 2, you get to feel vindicated for making things right, I guess, on some level. And then 3, you get a shitty version of the movie that you can point at and go, see, it's not good in it. It's not that good anyway. Maybe I was right. I was like, no chance. I would rather just have the Snyder Cut be a mythical unicorn for all time. And it's true. They know that had they not released it, we'd still be hassling them. The whole reasoning would be for us to be quiet, and that's why we continue.
That's why we want to do that.
Exactly. And it's very, very obvious that the fact that we pushed as much as we did was a bargaining chip for Zack. I will discuss this. I do want to discuss this further tomorrow, but the fact that he didn't take any pay for all of this as well, because he wanted to make sure that money went to the right people who just didn't pay, who were cut, that sort of thing. And personally,
gave him more leverage to get what he wanted and
exactly.
be able to do what he wanted with it. So
and I think that's fantastic. Because a lot of that money, I don't think people realize. Yes, a lot of it went into CG and some additional photography and all that sort of stuff, but a lot of that money went into paying people who should have been paid in 2017 that weren't. So where did that money end up in 2017? Into the reshoots that nobody asked for? I don't know. Into Henry Cavill's mustache CGI, like that cost $5 million. Like there was probably a lot of crew that didn't get paid because they had to CGI Cavill's mustache, which is insanity. So
the fact that cost, what did you say, $5 million?
$5 million. Yes.
I didn't hear that number. That's crazy.
Yeah. So the thing with that one was Paramount said that they would shut down production as well. I think it was going to cost them $5 million to shut down production. And they said, if you pay us that, we'll shut down the production and let you shoot it normally. And they were like, nah, we'll just put that money into CGI and mustache.
Okay.
Which, again, who are you helping? So look, that's just a quick rundown. Obviously, we got some new images. We got a new Batman, a new Mera Cyborg in And I thought this was interesting that they posted the Cyborg images in the suit, the mocap suit, rather than the suit. But it was interesting to see that there was a lot more of the lights in the center across the chest. That sort of tells me that Cyborg's nightmare outfit's going to be a little different. But again, very cool.
He's really apprehensive to show that, isn't he? He wants to keep that one a surprise for sure.
I don't want to see it. There is a lot of things about this movie we have seen. There's a lot of things we know. Keep as many surprises up your sleeve. I did say to someone today, I think Zack could drop something every day until the cut comes out, and we'd still have plenty of surprises. But
I mean, 4 hours of stuff, you're bound to have surprises.
That's right. I don't need to see anything further. I know we're going to get another trailer. Just show me some sort of more action footage that we're expecting. That's all I need to see.
He doesn't need to reveal anything.
Exactly. And then we got the Joker image of the Jesus figure. That's pretty interesting considering the tattoo that he had on the side said God's only child. I believe we're getting a version of the Joker that is sort of like trying to play into the I'm Jesus. I'm like the savior, and I'm here to.
Yeah,
exactly. Which I think will be a really interesting way for him to interact with Batman. But yeah.
And Zack referenced him as which one was it? Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, I think he referred to him as.
In an earlier
interview. So that'll be
very interesting. I sort of initially had the thought that maybe it would all be in Batman's head because of that quote, but I think it's more a vision of the future. So I think it's a future that exists like the nightmare as we've seen, which I'm glad, because I don't want Joker to be in Batman's head.
Just manifested in his head.
Yeah, exactly. I want the Joker to be the Joker, as we've seen him. I reckon we wrap it up there. We'll go into a lot more detail tomorrow, but it's been awesome to have you on, man. Awesome to chat.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll definitely get it again soon. For everybody listening, thanks for checking in. We will be out again tomorrow doing a live stream. We will go into a lot more detail. Don't forget to like and subscribe and show all your friends if you are enjoying the content. I know there's a few people who have reached out to me already. We're trying to get to 100. So let's get there. We can do it. 100 by the end of week 2. I think we can do it. Much love, Marcus. Thanks for coming on, and thanks to everyone for checking it out. So thank you.